Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Now in our 6th season, each week we look into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club, available to you on video and audio. So for an irreverent but always informative hour of football conversation, make your Monday a Blue Monday. And on this week's show, well, how can I describe them? Uninspiring, lacklustre, tame, monotonous, insipid, disorganised, incompetent. But that's enough about Ipswich Town for the first 75 minutes against Shrewsbury. I'm joined by two fine gentlemen who certainly aren't those things. Craig Fimbo, and welcome back Joe Fairs after a bit of a John Nolan-esque break. I'll start with you, Joe. How are you doing? And did you like the introduction?
Yeah, it was great.
My afternoon.
I'd have gone harsher.
More swear words, eh? But you're doing all right, Joe.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Had an enjoyable bike ride at Rendlesham Forest today. Sort of like a stage of the Tour de France. Trying to get around that with two toddlers.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, that's a competition in its own right. Getting them to fall in line. That's good though. Bit of healthy exercise, you know. It's all good for lockdown. And Craig, any exercise for you today, or was it Super Sunday on the sofa?
I haven't left the house today. No, I'm in the midst of clearing out the kids' playroom downstairs and turning it into a cinema room. So
nice.
Uncluttering all their crap they've managed to put together over the last 10 years and persuading my little girl that she probably doesn't need that anymore. It's been sitting in the cupboard not doing anything for 8 years. So let's get rid of it so Daddy can have a 110-inch screen on the telly on the wall and a projector to watch Ipswich in all their
I was going to say the 91-92 season review on constant rotation, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. So, yeah.
Well, you got the thing that parents, the right that you have is just for one day when they go out to school or something, you can just bin it all and just say, sorry, it's too late. That's what happened to me.
Spoken like a man without children.
Absolutely. Spoken like a man without children. But speaking from experience of losing the Ghostbusters car, you know, from the 80s film, and my first Ipswich Town shirt that was gifted to someone as well. So I'm speaking from, so I know that I know you can get away with it at the time, but I'm here to tell you that the scars last a lifetime, Craig.
I don't think any of it would have been worth anything unless people are collecting, Happy Meal toys from the last 6 years, or the stuff you find in Christmas crackers that needs to be hoarded and not thrown away. I think we're on safe ground.
You never know. Well, the main business is obviously Shrewsbury, so I've got plenty on that. Let's just whistle through the news, because there wasn't much this week, and we dealt with a lot of it on the live show. Quickly, guys, I just wanted to get your thoughts on 5 subs, and I'm guessing it's a positive from your perspective, but also the fact that the League 1 and League 2 didn't opt to go with the Championship and extend the number of players that are able to be selected for the bench to be increased by 2. Joe, do you want to give me your thoughts on 5 subs? I mean, for a team like Ipswich in League 1, it's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be a good thing for us because we do have a bigger squad than most at this level. I think that the bench should have gone to 9, because 7, when you can use 5 of 7, seems a sort of a little bit silly to limit yourself that much. And anything that the Leagues 1 and 2 do, which is different to the Championship, does concern me, because it does seem like the Championship, every sort of point of differentiation it can have at the moment, it seems to be taking, which isn't a good thing for the long term of the EFL.
Yeah. Craig, agree with that?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I think it was Joe's mentioned during the week. We can bring on, in theory, better quality from the bench, to help us. Whereas opposition can bring on fresher players, can't they? We've won games earlier in the season by virtue of just plugging away and keeping at it, and grinding teams down. And whether that's going to be negated somewhat by teams being able to freshen up, remains to be seen.
Yeah, and continuing the thought on how you feel the subs bench, Craig. I mean, this injury list that we have, Lambert's presser on Friday, there was whisper of 2 injuries. I think, in fact, it's 3 additional injuries before we even get to Shrewsbury. Wilson and Edwards, it turned out, on Saturday, but also Hawkins misses out as well. These just continue, don't they?
Yeah, and it's also a bit concerning. These guys are getting injured in training as well, aren't they? It's not as if they're getting kicked like Bishop was at the weekend. These guys are getting injured when we're supposedly looking after them for 2 weeks while they're off. It's Lambert was saying excuses about playing all these matches. Well, the people that are getting injured aren't really playing or haven't played many matches in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Nolan hasn't played for 2 matches in a month. I think he'd played before he went off, hobbled on Saturday. So yeah, I'd say I'm more concerned about the fact that they're getting injured. I say when they're under our care rather than in the midst of a hurly-burly match.
Yeah. It's the same sort of injuries, isn't it, to muscle injuries as opposed to impact injuries. Like you say, Teddy Bishop got injured yesterday because someone went down the back of his Achilles and his ankle. So those things happen in football. But when Edwards is doing his hamstring in training, Norwood did his hamstring in training, and things like that, it does worry you.
And these are the injuries that we've had for the last 5-6 years on a routine basis, isn't it? You know, we can talk about it now, so it's no spoiler alert. Nolan's injury, I mean, the chat at full time yesterday about Nolan's injury confused me somewhat, Craig, because as you mentioned, we've had nothing to do for 10 days. And Lambert has suggested that it's the Saturday, Tuesday syndrome. Well, we've had nothing to do for 10 days, have we? So
yeah. Well, and Nolan didn't have anything to do for 3 matches before
before
this one, did he?
Well, he played the Portsmouth game, didn't he? So that's one out of the last 5 games, and then
I think
a 10-day break.
Stuart Watson said it was 2 in 28 days he'd played. I've got no reason to question it. But the thing is, as well, NCR, I'm talking about pulls and bits and pieces like that, and it's a groin strain, and it was early on in the match. So, do you question his warming up? I don't know. NCR wasn't seen for a year after he pulled a hamstring in pre-season, did he?
Mm.
Similar situation, I appreciate.
I mean, I just have to call attention to, for those of you who are listening to this, Joe's got a tankard that is as big as his head. Is that alcoholic beverage, Joe? Is that something to like?
It's an orange and pineapple, which I don't like, which my wife mistakenly bought yesterday. But the glass is a Hofbrauhaus.
Massive, that is.
For my stag do.
Oh, lovely stuff. And Craig, we'll just finish on this, and I'll get Joe. I'll get your score. I think we agree with this. Paul Lambert scored. We could have did our mailbag Q&A ratings for the squad last week on the show, and missed out Lambert, and then I think we got questions about it, and I think you guys maybe scored the season out of 10. Lambert kind of scored the season, and I guess himself 7 out of 10 up to yesterday. Is that the score that you would have given him?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think when me and Dave were on last week with Mikey, we were talking about, because the golf was on, we were talking about golf scores, weren't we? And we said we were around about par. So before the weekend, I'd say we were probably about 6.5. I'd say it was about par, wasn't it? We weren't putting up any trees, but I'm not sure we were quite a 7. I suppose if we league position, we probably were. Performances just under, maybe.
Joe, would you have scored 7 out of 10 for Lambert specifically?
Like Craig, I think that was about right when you look at the fact we were second or third in the league, 2 points per game. Whilst the last few games we hadn't really played particularly badly. We just the start had started to slide away a bit, so it was just a case of how we're going to react to it. But yeah, I'd have said it was sort of fine. But obviously, I know we won yesterday, but a hell of a lot changed yesterday for me.
Well, let's get into it, guys, and plenty to talk about against Shrewsbury yesterday. Let me bring you up to speed with the situation going into the game. Ipswich third, despite having not played for 10 days in the league. Results largely went for us, remaining third. Last time out, defeat to Sunderland in the league, albeit with mitigating circumstances. Shrewsbury, though, lying 22nd, only 1 win in the league so far, 5 draws, 5 defeats, and last time out they drew with Swindon. Let me take you through the Ipswich team. 3 changes: Holy in goal, a back 4 of Ward, McGuinness, Enciala and Chambers. Just pause here on Enciala and McGuinness, guys. What's Wolfenden done to not get in this team?
Quarantined? I don't know. He came in, he played 2 games. We won both of them 1-0, 2 clean sheets for the defence. He goes out of the team. We lose to Lincoln. We lose to we lose to Sunderland. We lose to Portsmouth, and yet he doesn't come back in the team when he's back available. Like I say, it doesn't make sense, does it? When he's effectively come into the team because Toto was struggling, and he comes in and helps be part of 2 clean sheets. It's not like Toto pulled up any trees against Sunderland or Portsmouth, was it?
No. And the other thing, I guess, Craig, is you've got McGuinness, who isn't our player, versus Wolfenden, who's got a 4-year contract and is sat on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. But as Joe says, we were talking earlier in the season. This is about when Enciala and Wilson were replaced by the two youngsters, and saying, well, they had to bide their time and wait for their time to get in. Well, Wolfenden had done that and bided his time and played well when he came in, or been part of the defence which had played well when he came in. And as Joe says, Enciala wasn't pulling up any trees in the small time he was his replacement. So I don't know. It's not the first time that Wolfenden's seemingly been treated a little bit harshly, is it, by the manager?
I think that's
Paul Lambert doesn't like players who are laid back.
More of that.
To manage them.
Hold that thought, Joe. Speaking of midfield three of Nolan, McGavin, and Bishop. Good news, Brett McGavin. I think. The options are few there, but Brett McGavin impressed against Portsmouth, and I think that was a deserved selection. And then, this front three guys. There's all kinds of stuff here that perhaps you could have foresaw before kick-off. Sears, Jackson, and Judge. Sears on the left, Judge on the right. Craig, I hate to pick on you because it seems to be every time we talk about Judge, someone asks you about this. But what was your thinking of seeing that front three? Was it dynamism and attacking threat, or was it something else?
It wasn't. It's a complete shock that Sears and Judge were spotted either side of the centre forward. They haven't done anything to particularly warrant their place, I don't think. I think as a group, we would have preferred to have seen someone else wide with instead of Judge potentially, or maybe both. I think Lancaster deserved a start in a wider position. I'd have had Lancaster in instead of Judge, I think, and that's what Sears does. He doesn't going forward, but he does, I suppose, protect his fullback. And if you haven't got Edwards on the other side doing the same, I'm sure we could have got something out of Lancaster and Sears on either side. But I think we're surely getting to the point now whereby those two guys aren't producing or performing and warranting their place in the team. But they seemingly played every time they're fit.
Joe, I guess the counter argument, and it's something that I made, I think, on the Blue Monday chat, is arguably that's the most experienced lineup, probably apart from McGavin, that you could maybe pick. McGuinness and Wolfen, I think, maybe there, but that's an experienced team. Is there any benefit in having that?
I don't think so personally. I don't see why you need that many experienced players in. I do think you need to have a couple of free players with a bit of experience in there, but ultimately these players need to perform, and Judge and Sears between them are not performing. So I think Judge is maybe being viewed a little bit harshly by some, because as poor as he was in the first half yesterday, come the sort of business point of the match, it's his ball that Bennett's headers over at the end. It's his shot that leads to the goal at Sunderland. It was his ball that put Jack Lancaster in when he should have scored the second. And whilst he is struggling, he is still popping up with things here and there where Sears just isn't contributing in an attacking sense at all at the moment. And I think if you want to play one of them, I think it's Judge for me, and you sort of put someone on the other side. And because, like I say, Sears and Ward, they started the season well. They had a lovely little link up down that side, but I'd say Sears has just not done anything for weeks and weeks now.
Let's just quickly talk about Shrewsbury. Burgoyne in goal with a very nice Movember Tash. They went for a back three, so they're obviously lining up to face off against our front three. Pierre, Banks, Ladell and Williams. Charlie Daniels, him of Bournemouth. David Edwards, him of Reading and Wolves. Norburn and Miller make up their midfield four. Tracy Pugh, another ex-Bournemouth player, and Whaley up front. Let's jump straight into the action, guys, because it doesn't take us too long to concede our first home goal in the league of the season. McGuinness is caught out here, and it was a very shaky start from McGuinness, wasn't it? But this is the kind of penalty that we're used to seeing Taito and Ciala concede. It's a stonewaller, isn't it, guys? There's no debate about this one at all.
No, just so clumsy, isn't it? And I think McGuinness has been pretty clumsy in all the games he's played. He does bring a lot of good to the team, and that he does win his headers, and he seems to be sort of better on the ball than sort of Toto. But ultimately, we're here we're sort of having to watch a young player iron out all the mistakes in his games while it's costing us in league matches. And like I say, the Sunderland goal, he slips. The second one, it's his clearance that hits, or it's his NCR's clearance that hits his arm for the penalty. Portsmouth, he gave away a goal at the start there, didn't he, with his poor deflection. And this is just basic stuff, isn't it? It's not even difficult. He just runs into him.
And Norman is confident with the penalty, albeit Holy seems to get something on the ball.
Yeah, I think he'd committed himself, and Holy was already diving to the right. His momentum, his weight would take him that way. So yeah, he didn't get enough on it, did he? And
as I said, the first goal conceded at home in the league, and 60 minutes, guys. Just so you're aware, Sam Ricketts, the Shrewsbury boss at full time yesterday, said they had 3 Stonewall penalties that they should have had. I guess including the first we've just talked about. This one on 16, it's McGuinness again who's involved, but I think Pugh is looking for this one. He kind of falls over, kind of looking for the contact, doesn't he? And the referee's quite wise to it and waves it away.
I don't think he. Look, his feet just go from under him as he turns. He stops, and I think the pitch just goes from under him. So he must feel like he's been caught. But when you sort of watch the replay, he doesn't get caught, but he sort of tries to turn sharply, and his feet just go from under him. So I think it's one where he probably thinks he got caught, but he just didn't.
Yep. 22 though, we've mentioned Lancaster. He's going to come on for Nolan, who's off injured. And to be honest, I've got nothing else written down so far from an Ipswich perspective. This system, this personnel, just really was not working. The fullbacks were kind of nowhere in the game. The centre backs were doing the usual passing between them. I thought Nolan hadn't really contributed a great deal up to that point, albeit relatively early in the game. Judge's positioning was all out, as you expect for him. Certainly cutting in. I don't know whether that was a deliberate ploy or not, but meant that Chambers was continually looking for the diagonal. But on paper here, would you have brought on Hughes? In hindsight, I know Lancaster obviously makes a telling contribution at the end, but you've got a like-for-like option there. It's an interesting choice that Lambert brings on.
I think it shows where Hughes is in the pecking order, really, doesn't it? Because what is he now? Probably our 7th choice central midfielder? When you look at it, because John Nolan was suspended for 3 games in a week, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, and Emir Hughes didn't play 1 minute behind Alan Judge, behind Jack Lancaster. When you've got Flynn Downs out, you've got Cole Scouse out. Now Brett McGavin is playing ahead of him. It's, like I say, Hughes is just nowhere, really, isn't he?
And the thing is, as well, Lancaster was interviewed afterwards, wasn't he, and was saying, I think he was asked about playing centrally, and he actually sort of mentioned himself he quite likes playing wide. So it's not as if he's coming in and playing in his most natural position. I know he played rather more advanced, didn't he, of the two?
More as a 10, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. But yeah, as Joe says, it's a shame for Hughes, but it's something we've spoken about previously. But I'm sure we'll get some minutes this week now.
Indeed, yeah. A penalty shout here for Ipswich it's for us, so it's never going to be awarded. But it's not drastically dissimilar to the Sunderland penalty with a handball, and to borrow a cliche you've seen them given. 39. This is probably the best chance of the half for Ipswich. Jackson gets in behind, cuts the ball back, and Lancaster's probably just too close in to get his feet sorted, and his shot is blocked. And so Sears is on the scene, but also has a shot blocked as well on the rebound. Enciala is pushed, two-handed shove in the back.
Yeah.
Again, seen them given, guys. No rub of the green here. 43 minutes. This is the concerning point. Teddy Bishop is down for a while, and Craig, he was targeted all half, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And didn't get much protection from the referee, from what I can recall.
No, it was different. It was pretty much a different player each time, wasn't it? It's pretty textbook stuff. But in those circumstances, one of our players needs to be in the ref's ear, doesn't he, from the very first or second time it happens, saying, "Come on, ref, look, it's pretty bloody obvious what's going on here." The same thing happened to Edwards at Sunderland, didn't it? He was getting cut down pretty much every time he got the ball on the wing by Sunderland. So,
and Bishop was against Sunderland as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Both
they're getting kicked. So, and I think it's therefore up to us to be highlighting it, getting in the ref's ear and refereeing the match for them if they're not going to do it themselves.
Yep, I totally agree. And guys, that's half time. And I think if the crowd had been in Portman Road, I tweeted it as much yesterday, I think there would have been boos at half time, wasn't there? Because, Shrewsbury's game plan was not subtle. They got exactly what they wanted, which is the early goal, and they were going to sit on that. I know they got round the back a few times, but there's not a huge amount from them to talk about. But there's not a huge amount the Lancaster chance aside that Ipswich contributed to that match. It was very disorganised and pretty disappointing to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry, Joe. That Lancaster effort was a good chance, though, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Jackson did very well to get there, didn't he? There was blistering pace to get to that ball, McGavin's ball, I think it was, and it was on Lancaster's right foot, wasn't it, rather than his left? So, which is probably why it was a bit powder puffed. But that was literally the only chance we created, wasn't it, of any note, apart from NCR getting pushed in the back. But...
And that kind of situation where that Shrewsbury, they're going to stick men behind the ball. The selection of Jackson to exploit his pace when we knew that it's very unlikely that he's going to get too many opportunities to get round them, it seems a bit strange, doesn't it? I guess clearly Lambert plans for success rather than failure here, but it just felt like the selection just wasn't working. Judge wasn't really giving Chambers any offer of an out ball down the right, and Enciala and was kicking the ball out to touch on the left hand side as well. There was just nothing to us, was there, Joe?
I think the problem was whatever selection was out there were just too many players not playing well enough yesterday, and whether it's because we conceded the early goal and that just flattened us, because it seemed to, but Chambers, who's been so good all season, was pretty poor on the ball. He was giving it away a lot. Ward, the other side, was poor. Enciala and McGuinness were just getting in each other's ways. There was just seemed such a lack of communication there. McGavin looked fine in the first half. I say Nolan wasn't involved. Jack Lancaster wasn't really involved at all, other than the chance. Jackson looked sharp, but didn't get the ball at all. Judge was poor, like his touch, his passing. He gave the ball away almost every time he had it. Sears not involved. It was just a poor performance from sort of probably everyone apart from Brett McGavin and Thomas Holy in the first half.
And your point, Joe, and we've mentioned it already, is what have we been doing for 2 weeks or 10 days leading up to this? Because there didn't appear to be any kind of pattern of play. Something we've bemoaned on the pod for 2 years. It looked like we just chucked 11 players out on the pitch, didn't it?
Yeah. 2 years of the same manager, 2 weeks just on the training pitch, and we looked like strangers out there. And every single player looked like a stranger from each other, and even the key ones, the sort of central midfield partnerships, the central defensive partnerships, the wingers and fullbacks. There was just nothing. I nearly drove down there just to boo at half time.
Let's go into the second half, because at least it gets better. But 50 minutes. Craig, should Bishop have come out for the second half? He subbed after 5 minutes for Hughes.
Yeah, they're probably just seeing if he could carry on with that. It's just textbook stuff, isn't it? Yeah, he should have come out. He may have just run it off, as they say. I'd imagine that's pretty much the limit of our sports science capabilities. Go out there, Teddy, and just see if you can run it off.
Does it hurt, boy?
Yeah. Get the magic sponge out.
And Hughes comes on. I was only the only one who thought he looked a little bit of chunky. Shirt untucked, maybe.
He's just looked. Yeah, he's just poor old guy. He's just looked a shadow, hasn't he, of his former self. The games, I said last week, the games metaphorically and physically just pass him by at the moment, don't they?
Yeah. 64 minutes gets down the right. This is a big opportunity. Lovely kind of flick behind him from Jackson and Judge. Here, I kind of was watching it with a few mates and saying, of all the people you want at the end of this chance, it's probably not Alan Judge. Kind of gets his dive in for the ball
with the wrong foot, doesn't he?
I think that's a good shout. And I think it's the post, does it, or the keeper makes a save. But this is it's an opportunity, isn't it? But 75 minutes. Who's going to tell me about this one? We've had the kind of double substitution Hail Mary, I call it. 66 minutes is maybe a little bit early, but it was illustrative of maybe the desperation of how poorly we've been playing. But Keenan Bennett comes on, as does Norwood, and the former Craig, is it, who's going to get involved?
Yeah.
Finally.
He hadn't really done too much, and you were saying yourself, Rich, weren't you, that he looked like he was playing in the middle because he was drifting inside so much after he came on. And again, he was sort of just trying, maybe held on to it a little bit too much for the rare occasions he was getting the ball. And so he just had it down in the near the corner flag, wasn't it? From a throw, and I think he eventually gets it. He just puts in a pretty nondescript cross with his left foot, which wasn't even going to beat the man at the near post, and Ebanks Landell thankfully shanks it in, doesn't he? Just had an almighty swing at it, and
I mean, he'd do well to repeat that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. But I say it wasn't deserved. It came out of completely nowhere. The cross wasn't exactly fizzing in, and in that corridor, as they say, it was just a pretty bog standard cross, which was easily cleared. You'd have thought.
I mean, that's the thing, Craig. There is not a clear-cut chance. Maybe the Judge one is there or thereabouts is a chance, but we did not look like there was possession without the threat, wasn't it? And you kind of thought, where is the goal going to come? Well, it comes from Shrewsbury shooting themselves in the foot, doesn't it?
Yeah, as ever. It's just so pedestrian in it when we do stuff. On the very, very, very rare occasions we do something with a little bit of impetus and a little bit of pace, we do okay, or we may carve out something, but it's just so pedestrian. It's possession for possession's sake, isn't it? 99% of the time. Yeah,
in areas of the pitch where you're no threat to the opposition.
Doesn't affect anything. Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I don't have any notes from now until injury time, apart from Shrewsbury wasted time pretty much from the 45th minute, as you kind of would expect, maybe even earlier than that. And finally, I know a referee who had, I think it was 7 subs in total, maybe I don't know how many Shrewsbury made in the end, but 7 minutes of added time, and actually felt like a reasonable amount of time to add on, because Shrewsbury had been doing their kind of dark arts throughout the second half, as you'd kind of expect, and actually it maybe comes back to haunt them, because Joe, there is I don't know whether this comes first or second. I think there's this moment here where McGavin slips, kind of Stuart Watson on the EADT kind of says Gerrard-esque slip, which I think is fair enough. And McGuinness and NCR are getting a muddle. And this is possibly what Sam Ricketts is talking about. This is a robust challenge I've written here by NCR. But the referee isn't interested, and no one really appeals for it. But I was kind of half expecting a penalty for that.
Yeah, I thought it was a penalty the first time I've seen it. I watched it back, and NCR doesn't really look like he gets the ball there. He goes in and he's tackling from a really poor position and doesn't look like he gets the ball. I think had it been given, I don't think anyone would have had too many complaints. But like I say, that was. It seemed like after we scored, they seemed the more likely side to get another one at that point. We didn't seem to kick on from there. They hit us on the break a couple of times, but this one was sort of real sort of hearts in your mouth moment, because it did look a penalty.
Yep.
With iFollow, you don't get the benefit of the replays from other angles, do you?
But the ball didn't deflect where you'd expect to had he made a tackle, did it? It sort of carried on the momentum of the direction that the guy was running in, rather than Enciala coming across and getting a clearance on it. But as you say, no one particularly moaned and groaned during the match at the time.
And it's, as I said, the game's going to swing totally the other way. And you mentioned it already, Joe. Alan Judge is involved here, and for once he's actually hit a shot with some power.
Yeah, and it's the same. It was almost one of the sort of only decent balls put into the box in the game from Chambers. He sort of whipped a good ball across, which I think it was Norwood who sort of lets it go through him to Judge, and Judge just takes the touch to get out of his feet and has a shot at goal. It's not the best effort at goal, to be honest, and there's not enough power on it. But the keeper sort of, rather than tries to hold it, just palms it sort of up in the air, and Jack Lancaster is Johnny on the spot who flies in and heads it in, and I say, and it's the match winner there. We assumed it was the match winner. It nearly didn't turn out that way, but it was, I don't know, it was a hard one, because I wasn't that excited about the sort of first goal. The second one is sort of a celebration, but I think it was to do with not being in the ground, in that when you're in the ground in there, the first thing you do is you glance at the linesman to see if his flag is up, and then, because everyone sort of seems to stop, and that sort of the reaction from it is a bit strange. But I watched it back on the club tweeted a picture of a video from the goal, from behind the goal out effectively, and it is, the keeper's got to be doing better with that. But fair play to Lancaster, 2 goals in 2 games, and I thought he had a pretty quiet game, and I think that's probably been a bit generous to say he was quiet there, but he comes up with a goal when it matters and sort of really sharp in the box.
I think Judge does get hold of the shot quite well. we're used to him kind of sit hitting these low little trundlers. And I wouldn't even say they're a grass cutter, Craig, because usually they're kind of bobbling along. Well, I thought there was a little bit of sideways movement on the ball, a little bit.
It was a little bit. It was still pretty straight at the goal.
Oh, straight at the keeper. It
was a carbon copy, wasn't it? They had one at the other end, didn't they, where the guy cut inside Chambers and hit it, had a decent shot at Holy, and Holy had good hands and kept hold of it, didn't he? It wasn't.
Luckily, that was straight at him as well.
Yeah, but it wasn't a million miles different from that. I appreciate it was a little bit wide, but I thought it was poor goalkeeping, wasn't it? But Lancaster's bombing in.
Yep, and then almost concede straight from it as well. I mean, penalty box scramble is the last thing you need, because it's pretty much 96th minute I think that goes in, and you think, well, that's surely it. They kick off and the final whistle goes, but no. I think it's Chambers who has to clear off the line here. It was panic stations there, but Town hold on. And I mean, we've got questions about how we kind of felt when the goal went in and the aftermath here. I guess the headlines that I've got here are the stats don't really tell the story of the game. 68% possession for Ipswich, 14 shots to 5, albeit only 5 of those were on target for us, 2 big chances. But we've kind of talked about this possession, and you kind of felt, McGavin was doing his best, but without Dizelle, you kind of felt that our possession, this 68% possession, was largely across the halfway line, wasn't it? In our own half,
Yeah. Interesting to see what the territory stats were, if you're talking about rugby.
I've got a little heat map thingy here. It's a shame we're not got I can't put it up. I'll post it, but red indicates the most number of touches, and as I say, it's red. There's 2 massive blobs of red in our half, where Enciala and McGuinness are, and then there's one down the right hand side that basically is just on the inside of their half.
It was obvious, though, wasn't it, that as soon as Holy rode it out to Enciala, which he pretty much did more often than not, he was just allowed to have the ball, wasn't he? They were just marking up everybody else and allowing Enciala to have the ball, and then saying, right, go on then, mate, do what you like with it, see what you can do, or match.
Not a lot. Do you reckon they'd have done the same with Wolfie if he was playing?
Well, I guess my thought is how much we missed Dizelle. I thought yesterday was really telling how, McGavin did. I think McGavin was probably the pick for me, and I guess probably you guys as well. But there was no one really linking up the thirds of the field, was there? And it just felt like there was no coherence to the way we were playing, which is why the goals have kind of come from nothing really.
As Joe said, it was a combination of everything, wasn't it? They had 3/4 of your back four probably having their worst games of the season so far. Jackson's touch is, if we're going to play it into his feet, his touch probably isn't good enough to play that, to hold on to it, to allow people to join him. But who was going to join him in any case? We weren't really getting forward from central midfield. Sears wasn't offering much. Judge was AWOL. There was nothing in front of Chambers for him to pass to, as you said, Rich. It was just a pretty ordinary and more frequent performance at the moment.
And Joe, we've now got Bishop. I think sounds like he's out for a while. Nolan, I think, is definitely out for this week. Dizelle misses one more game because of his suspension. No Gwion Edwards. That sounds like a typical kind of hamstring injury. So 4 to 6 weeks, maybe, I guess. Is there a plan B here, and is it time for 2 up front?
I think you're going to struggle to find 3 midfielders to put out there on Tuesday night as well. Because whilst McGavin played well, I thought he struggled in the last sort of 15, 20 minutes. I think the game had got on top of him a bit there. And is Kenny go and play another 90 minutes on Tuesday? And then who else you got there? Probably Emir Hughes, who is, like we were saying earlier, is struggling. And then you're going to have to put a Jack Lancaster or Alan Judge in the middle with them, which that's sort of they are not really in your central midfield, are they? They are an attacker that sort of drops in every now and again. They aren't a third man in the midfield, are they? So it is a drop. But I don't know. Paul Lambert's gone from someone who changed formation every single week to somebody who's, like I say, on Football Manager, has got this new plug and play tactic, and he's just going to stick with it whatever comes now. And I don't know. It's just I don't really have any faith in him getting it right.
I think but as you say, Rich, if we haven't got Edwards, we haven't got Bishop, and we haven't got Dizelle, who's getting us up the pitch? Who's going to either pass it up the pitch or run with it up the pitch for us? Because without those three, we were talking about ratings of players last week. Probably our highest rated, certainly attacking-minded players, not taking Chambers into account. But Edwards has probably been our player of the season so far. Bishop is getting better and better and dribbling through the middle of the pitch, up the pitch. Dazell's passing it up the pitch. Joe's saying we're going to struggle to find 3 players for central midfield. Christ, if you're playing 4-4-2, who are your central 2 going to be?
Yeah,
they'll be overrun, aren't they?
Yeah.
But also, I just think you're sort of saying, I know Dazell, we miss him, but realistically, without Teddy Bishop and without Gwion Edwards, we don't have anyone that can break a line or beat a man up in the final third. And I wouldn't like to go back and count all the goals. Sort of every single goal this season seems like it's had one of their involvement in it, that sort of somewhere along the line, from the opening day where Bishop gets the first and Edwards gets the second, and it seems almost every single goal all season has had one of them beating a man to get it in there, putting a cross in, finishing it off. They've got 9 goals between them as well, and I just think without those 2, we are in a position where we are going to look even more static, and which sort of seems hard to believe after you saw the game Saturday. But so Keenan Bennett gave it a go, and I know not everything came off for him, but he actually gave it a go. And even sort of, I don't know how fit James Norwood was yesterday, but his movement and the way he plays that central striker role has given us something that we haven't had all season. Sort of a genuine sort of bit of a bully up there who also has a goal threat. So I say, if you can get Norwood fit, if you can, but then Jackson played well.
Time for Jackson to take his place on the left-hand side of that 3 then.
But then
Norwood in the middle and Kim Bennett.
Do we get overrun if we, if we put Jackson Norwood up front? Do you get overrun in the middle? I know the injury situation is bad, but ultimately we've got enough good players still there.
Yep.
Why not give Dobra a game if you want someone to beat a man up in that final third? Somebody who wasn't even on the bench yesterday.
Yeah. And the good thing is, it's not like we've got 2 of the best teams in the league to face in the coming week anyway. Before we get on to the questions, and we've got a lot of questions, and we've deliberately not talked too much about Lambert, I do want to talk about his post-match comments about Brett McGavin. Some light and shade for you. Pre-match, asked whether, this is from TWTD, asked whether Academy product McGavin is in his thoughts to take Dazell's role against the Shrews. He said he did great. He didn't let me down. He didn't let himself down. He's a young kid, but he's still a really good footballer. Post-match, fast forward, and it's Brenna Woolley who's taken the brunt of this. Brenna was positive about McGavin's performance, and Lambert replied with, "He must be a favourite of yours because you wax lyrical about him all the time. My standard is maybe a little bit different to yours. I think there are good things there. I think there are good things there. I think there are some things he's got to be 100 times better with. But the kid came in and played a good game. He's got big shoes to fill in." But there you go. There's some other stuff there. What does Brett McGavin take from this one? I guess, Joe, from your kind of academy perspective, is this the kind of thing that young players who are thrust into the action, perhaps a little bit under pressure, want to hear? Or do they want to have maybe their ego stroked a little bit and an arm put around them?
Well, no young player wants to hear that, do they? Because it wasn't exactly a glowing praise. You want to build these players up and make them feel tall. The only hope is that Brett, from sort of what I understand, is a pretty level-headed lad. His father was obviously a footballer, so is still around the game as well, sort of working in football. So hopefully he's someone that can help keep his sort of spirit up and sort of make sure he doesn't read too much into it, because it's just unnecessary. And it's Lambert, like Mick McCarthy got like this over the sort of end of his reign, where they just treat the local press with sort of utter disdain at times and so dismissive to them. And sort of it's not exactly Frost Nixon, is it? Brenna Woolley asking you a few sort of easy questions at the end of the game, and it's like he comes in and he sort of says, "Oh, that's not the best performance," which it wasn't, and he's like, "Oh, you're being so negative, well, bloody blah," and then it's like, "Oh, well, Brett McGavin played well, that's a positive." Oh no, he didn't. It's like Lambert's just having a little battle with all these reporters just by being a twat, and he doesn't care who gets thrown under the bus by his sort of petty little games that he plays with all the local press.
That's how I was sort of reading it, is that he didn't necessarily come into the press conference to belittle McGavin. He came in it to basically be contrite and say exactly the opposite to what Brenner Woolley was saying for whatever reason. So
He was
regardless
snarky, wasn't he, all through it?
Very snarky.
regardless of who Brenner had suggested, he was going to say the opposite just to be, a dick about it.
Yeah,
exactly. But the thing was, the result empowered Lambert to be able to do it, didn't it? Had he come out of that with a 1-1 draw or a loss, he wouldn't have been so bolshy and been able to come out and act as he did. We're almost in the realms of your opinions don't matter. Show us your medals, almost.
Yeah. Yeah, well, how many Champions League have you won, Brenner? And this is the issue at this moment in time. Is obviously supporters aren't in the ground, and I think had that ended 1-1 yesterday, and at half time yesterday on Saturday, I think the fans would have let Lambert know what they felt about that performance. And Brenner Woolley is effectively our representative now because we're all there remotely anyway, and I don't think what Brenner asked was particularly controversial or inaccurate. And so it's almost as if it's two fingers to us as well as probably it is directly to Brenner Woolley. Professionalism.
It never is it? It's never sort of. I find that sort of the guys at TWTD, EADT, the sort of Radio Suffolk, they have to walk such a tightrope sort of around the football club, because basically the football club is the only show in town, and if they were to have any access struggles, that East Anglia would really struggle without that. The TWTD, I think they might be having problems from what I understand as well, and sort of Radio Suffolk, if he says he's not going to speak to the radio, then it doesn't help. So that the press go really, really easy on them, while Stu and Andy do try and put the opinion pieces out and try and push the mood of the fans, but they're very, very fair, and probably too fair to the club at times because they have to be. And I think, like I say, it happened with Mick towards the end of his reign, where it got to the point where they just used to print Mick's press conferences up as transcripts, because just to sort of show these are the questions that are being asked, that are getting these reactions. And I think, like I say, I'd implore any Ipswich fan to, I think Rich tweeted out the link to the final whistle show yesterday on BBC Suffolk. Go back and don't just read the words on this. Go and listen to it as well. Listen to the way Lambert talks about this, and it's disgusting, really. And he is our representative, and he is the face of our club, effectively. And he's just a dick.
The good thing is, Joe, is I've kind of caged you up for 40 minutes talking about match action. We don't give a shit about access. We're not going to spend that stupid money to try and get into the press conferences. So we're going to tell you how it is. And the good thing is, everyone's asked us questions. They want to know about it as well, so don't hold back, guys. Admittedly, if we can keep this swear count as monetization and all that is good, but we've got no axes to grind, really. We're all supporters. We can all see what happened yesterday, and I think we don't need to be backward and coming forward about giving our opinions. So here we go. I'm going to start with you, Joe, because you look like you're ready. You look like you're spoiling. Dave Gort. A sign of a good team is one that wins when they don't play well. We are stretching this a bit far now. Current performance levels are not good enough. The poor refereeing decisions against us are of late. The poor refereeing, and perhaps fate's way of trying to even out our continued poor play. But I guess I just wanted to pick on the first piece said there. A sign of a good team is one that wins when they don't play well. A lot of people said yesterday was papering over the cracks. The Quest guys, George Alec from not the top 20, Danny Cowley and Colin Murray were debating this. We are, the last few weeks we have played badly and won games, and it's kind of the worst of both worlds, isn't it? Or do we want wins at any cost? It's difficult, isn't it?
Well, it's difficult. I worry that come this time next week, if we've had poor results at Hull and Charlton, that if we've got 3 points yesterday, does that put us in a position in the table which makes it look better than it is? I don't know whether that result ends up causing us more damage in the long term than good, but I just, like I say, I was obviously, all the listeners will know, I was quite vocal about my opinions about Lambert through last season. I thought he should have gone in December when he got the new contract. A lot of people said he should have gone in May previously. I think he'd probably just about done enough with what he'd done off the pitch to deserve a crack at League One, but I thought by December he'd shot. I thought by any time once the form fell off after January, I think he should have gone. When we were finished 11th, I think he should have gone. Had the season finished, I think he would have gone. But this season he was walking a tightrope, but I was prepared to sort of be optimistic and given the benefit of the doubt. And I know it sounds silly when we're third in the league with sort of more than 2 points per game, but ultimately the season started and you could see that there were signs that we were going in the right direction. We were playing some better football. You only have to look back at the goals from the first month of the season, and there were some decent goals scored, decent interplay, decent movement, but sort of Gillingham was really. I thought the first half we did okay there, and the second half they came out and they were the better team, and they're not a good side. Crewe battered us. We lost at Lincoln. We played okay there. Sunderland, we lost, poor decisions, and I think we probably just about edged that one. But had that finished 1-1, I don't think anyone would have complained. I'm happy to write off the cup games. This is how much benefit of doubt I was giving him. But yesterday, that was a horror show against a really, really poor side. It showed how poor they were. The fact we managed to beat them by playing that crap. And like I say, gone is that sort of early season optimism where there's sort of a few decent bits of play. We look like we're sort of trying to do the right things, the team selections, and we've like I say, we've had the same manager for 2 years. We've had 2 weeks on the training ground, and we turn up and put in a performance like that. I think it's like I say, I'm back off the fence now, and I've placed my feet back in the Lambert out camp, which I'd never really out of in the first place. But no, he is. We are not going to go up with him here. We just need to make a change as soon as possible.
Craig,
it bemuses me. You're saying about international breaks. It's every single international break we come back and we are bloody awful after it, aren't we? It seems we're worse with more time on the training ground than we are with less time on the training ground.
Which is such a poorly coached team. And every single week you watch a team and they're just better coached than us. And like I say, you go back to the Lincoln game, and I know, like I say, we probably could have nicked a point there and we didn't, but that was a team that put out there 18 players, like 15 of them had come in the summer, and they looked so much more organised than us. They had their press triggers, they had their shapes, they had their patterns of play, and it's like we've had the same squad of players effectively for at least all of last season. Sort of, you look at who played yesterday. Holy obviously was here last season. Chambers, Enciala, obviously McGavern's coming through the sort of kids team and things like that. Jackson, Sears, Judge. These are all players that have been here for a long time, and the managers just cannot set a team up.
Look at Crewe and their pattern of play. You know, they should have wiped the floor with us if they had strikers.
They've come through from a promotion and things like that. So teams like that, you expect to be able to play well on their day. But like I say, they've only got hammered 4-1 at Portsmouth yesterday and
can't score. Dominated the game, can't score.
Like I say, does anyone here think that Paul Lambert can set a team up well and coach a team well, or is it just a case of being able to get relatively organised defensively?
Craig, Ginger Eagle 73 Lee asks, don't think I've ever rolled my eyes after a win. Now that win has probably earned Lambert another 6 months. What are your thoughts on whether a new manager would actually help matters? Is it set so deeply that we need a massive clear out with a few notable exceptions?
It's the players are underperforming as well, though, aren't they? And it's, you know, you can lay stuff at Lambert's door, but Christ almighty, how many of the players are playing well? You know, and the players that we need to play well. We were saying earlier about having experience through the team. It's your experienced players that are letting the team down as well, isn't it? So
no real communication yesterday, was there? We didn't talk about that. You know, we don't have crowd noise. Too much crowd noise played through. There's not much chat, was there? There was not much celebration of the goals either. You know, it's kind of felt like Lincoln 5-3 last season. You know.
Yeah, and as is it Lee that says about rolling his eyes at the result? It was, whether it's the Swansea result that Hurst got that got him another match or two, didn't it? And duel away at Barnsley. Oh. Yeah, I remember there was a match under McCarthy, wasn't there? And McGoldrick scored in the 92nd minute,
wasn't it?
Yeah, that was, and the crowd were after McCarthy that day, and they scored. We scored in the last minute to draw 2-2, and that was just like a goal we scored, and we can't have a proper moan. We can't have a proper. We're not allowed to have a proper moan and boo at it now. So I think it would have been an element of that had there been any crowd in there yesterday, like a half-eyed. Oh, good, we've won. We can't vent our frustrations like Joe is.
Off to the pub. Joe, Paul Westlake asks, obviously I always want us to win, but do fluke results like Shrewsbury just add confusion? No direction, no leadership was evidence, Craig said. Are we relying on other sides being poorer than us to get wins. Certainly was the case yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think, like I say, that the issue now is about the confusion is that effectively at home we've played 6, won 6, but the first 3 were deserved wins, and the last 3, well, Accrington was a bit of a struggle. It's now sort of 4 of the 6 where we've maybe not done enough to win them, and we've won them all. And sort of, I'd have said up until a few weeks ago that if you'd have looked at sort of what we've got on the board compared to what we should have had, it was only really the MK Dons game where we nicked a point where we were much poorer than them. But over it's probably the last 6 games now, I think we've got a lot more than we deserved, especially in the 3 home ones. And the sort of, well, I don't know how many points we got in the last 6 games. Is it 9 points? Is it 3 wins, 3 defeats? So that 9 points could have easily been 4, could have easily been 3. And if that's the case, then it's massively different. And like I say, if we do what we have done consistently for the last 18 months and not beat teams around us in the league in this coming week, and we pick up 1 point this week, or 0 points, or 2 points, or 1 point, this 3 points here does put us in a position where Lambert can say, well, we're still in the top 6, we're doing well, we've just had a few bad decisions, we've got a lot of injuries, and we're still in the top 6. But personally, I think if Evans thinks he is not the right man anymore, you just need to get him out of there while we are still in a good position for the next man to have a go at.
And to the debate we were having on the Blue Monday WhatsApp earlier, while there are viable candidates who are not being touted to championship clubs because there's no vacancies, I think, in the championship at the moment. Now feels like a good time to make a change, but we don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, do we? I guess Mark Parmenter's question, Craig, sorry to jump in because I know you're going to make another point. Is there any chance Evans will act sooner and sack Lambert on the basis of poor team performances and poor management of the younger players, or is it solely down to results and league position?
Yeah, the latter, I would imagine. As Joe says, if we're still in the top 6, then from the outside looking in, and from Evans' perspective, it's about promotion, isn't it? And if we're in the top 6, you're still in with a shout of promotion. And I would imagine, similar to Hurst, that any get-out clauses might revolve around league positions at certain points in the season, so there may be something there. And once we've got past Hull and Charlton, we've then got Oxford, Plymouth, and Portsmouth coming up, haven't we? So they're not easier games. Well, I suppose they are easier games than those 2, but they're not tailing off in terms of how easy they're going to get. We're just, as Joe was saying, we're relying on what quality we do have in the team being better than the opposition, and that's why we finished 10th, 11th last year, wasn't it? Because we were beating the teams that were worse than us and not having enough about us to beat teams who were on a level with us and better than us. Because that's when the coaching and the setup comes into fruition. Mm-hmm. We're getting through games by hook or by crook just by having better players against the worst teams, which is exactly what we did last year and exactly what we've done so far this. This time next week, Christ, we could be singing his praises again. Who'd have thought? 9 points in a week, but It's not looking likely, is it?
Well, Chris London Tractor Boy says, seemed like a pre-season friendly against Shrewsbury. Lack of attacking threat, no plan B. Shrewsbury were only a threat when we made a mistake. We will be taught harsh lessons twice this week. If we don't drastically improve, God knows what the midfield will look like on Tuesday. I think he's got a point. Nick,
does that give Lambert the excuses though?
Yeah, because I'm down to the bare bones tomorrow. A red napism, yeah, possibly. Nick asked, does the pod think that Lambert's ego is stopping him from admitting he's wrong and recalling Wolfenden? Playing 2 clumsy centre-halves is asking for trouble. He says Jackson has to play in a 2 and have all the team been learning walking football, as we don't have to have the tempo. What is your thoughts on Lambert's treatment of Wolfenden? We talked about kind of his statements about McGavin, perhaps not really reading too much into that, but what about Wolfenden?
He's got to be back in the team, hasn't he? He's our best he's our best defender. He's given a massive bump of 4-year contract in the summer. So not only is he our best defender, he is our best asset in the squad, probably, alongside Flynn Downs. And he sort of missed games because Lambert decided to play him in that EFL trophy game at the start of the season where he got injured after he sort of had his hamstring seem to go against Wigan or Bristol Rovers in the first game. He comes back in the side. We keep 2 clean sheets, and then sort of COVID catches him, or he has to quarantine for whatever reason, which is unfortunate. But ultimately, you've just got to get him back in the team. He got himself into the team after Toto and Wilson struggled, and he didn't do anything wrong when he came back in the team. And he does get us moving. He does get us passing ball quicker. And I say, if you want to sit there and go back and forth across the back, yeah, well, Toto's your man, with the odd shank out of play. But ultimately, if you want to be a progressive side, you need to get your progressive players into the team, because anyone can pass the ball about at the back.
And Peckham Blue asks Craig, reckon there's any chance of Project NCR being scrapped? Today's game was crying out for Wolfie to bring the ball forward out of defence, as Joe said. Your thoughts? I guess we're kind of adamant that Wolfenden comes in. Who does he come in for? And do you think Lambert will actually do it?
I think he will do it. I think they both had a poor game, didn't they? McGuinness and NCR at the weekend. But we've only got 3 centre halves, so unless we move Chambers across the stick, Danassian at right back, it's going to be Wolfenden in for one of the two, isn't it? As Joe said, he's got to come in just to get a foot on the ball and get us playing, regardless of if we've got 2 ahead of him or 3 ahead of him in central midfield. We just need somebody at the back who can play a pass forward with some confidence that it's going to end up where it should. I'm more concerned about central midfield on Tuesday, to be perfectly honest. I
just wonder whether we're going to get one of those total sort of, it's happened before under both Hurst and Lambert, one of those total random selections of like, I'm losing it here and I just need to chuck something out there which is totally random and see how it goes. Whether we're going to get there at some point.
Slightly changing tact here, Adam Fajani. Why do we persist with only playing Jackson down the middle of the three? Clearly not suited. Surely he would be an asset to the right or left of central striker with his pace. Anyone want to take that one?
Agree. Yeah. But he hasn't even been tried there, has he? Not even once. We played him. We played all 3 of them, didn't we, up front from the start in one match last season, didn't we? But even then, Norwood was playing wide left and Jackson was playing through the middle.
Bristol Rovers at home.
Yeah, we haven't ever even tried it, not even for a substitute minutes. So,
even when you look at the sort of good impact he made yesterday, it's getting that running behind and making a really good run and making a really smart pullback as well. People go on about his football brain, but he is very good when he gets in that position down on the byline and finding a man. A lot of his assists last season came from that point. You look at Downs' header in the corresponding fixture against Shrewsbury last year, was a good cross. Norwood, at least 2 or 3 times he's got there and pulled him back from him. He's a better player than he gets given credit for.
Yeah. Chris Peach asked about Sears. Sears is a much better player when playing up front with a strike partner. Do we agree with that one? I mean, and you know, I've got questions here about.
I just wonder what Sears is now.
Well, yeah, you know, Mark with a C. Surely we no longer have the right players available for 4-3-3, and we have to move to a different system, 4-4-2. Dan Shelcott, you know, in Freddie Sears, Emir Hughes, and Alan Judge, we have 3 players on huge wages who should be standing out as top players at this level. They are not. Bad management? ? And there's one more I just want to lob into the mix as well before you guys go on that. Will Airy, what dirt does Alan Judge have on Lambert? You know, Dan's point is a really valid one there. You know, we've got these players. We've you know, we repeat ourselves about Alan Judge quite a lot, but you've got Freddie Sears, Emir Hughes, Alan Judge, who on paper would be starters for any team in this division. And what is it that means that they just don't stand out for us? Is it management or is it motivation or, you know?
The manager can only do so much, can't he? But, you know, these guys aren't performing. I said it before. These guys simply aren't performing. And I appreciate what Joe's saying about Judge and why he's on the pitch for the 90 minutes is because he can. You know, he will eventually, hopefully, stick in a decent cross or have a decent shot. Sears isn't performing. Hughes isn't performing. Is that a fitness thing? I don't know. But you know, at some point, we do need to start putting some responsibility at players' feet, don't we? Mm. You know, as one of the questions said, you know, these guys aren't earning pittance. They should be. And Sears got a new contract, didn't he? Relatively recently. But I don't know. I don't know what we do. I say if we change formation, it'll only be Judge and Sears wide in a 4-4-2, won't it?
Yeah, and Judge drifting inside. Yeah.
But I'd like to see these players. I just don't feel these players have ever had a shot in this league at playing in an organised side. Because even though we're playing the same formation every week, we're not organised, are we? And how different would they look if they, like I say, you see some of the patterns of play that were being built up at the start of the year. That's gone out the window now, and it's like if you put these players in other teams in this league that are better coached, you would be getting more out of them. I'm sure of it.
Matt Sennett asks, should we send Lambert a copy of Mike Bassett, England manager, to get some formation tips? Hashtag 442, hashtag 44F2, if we're going to do this right. Mark Rogers, with the amount the team love to pass it back to Toto, can we just stick Toto up top? Might get the ball forward a bit more. I mean, maybe we'll get that on Tuesday night. What else have we got here? There's a good one from Mikey. How did you react to a 97th minute winner? That was easily the least excited I've ever been about a late winner. Do you agree with that one?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm finding it a real struggle watching the games, just sitting in the office. I'm not enjoying it. I tried to get on my telly yesterday and it just failed, and I'm just watching games on my own. I sort of got used to it for the away games last year, but for every single game, it's driving me mad at the moment.
Yeah, it's not a good watch, is it at all at the moment? There's no, but as I say, I would have thought the atmosphere would have been the same as it was when that late McGoldrick Rotherham equaliser went in. I just sort of chuckled to myself when the winner went in, rather than being leaping around the front room.
James Chidwick, how many players are injured now? Would you all take 2 draws after the dross that was Saturday?
We've got to beat a team in the top of the league at some point, and I don't think 2 draws does anything, because it just doesn't answer any questions.
Yep.
And the thing is, it doesn't give you enough points, does it? You need to be winning one of them, don't you? 3 points is better than 2 points. Without wishing to state the bleeding obvious. But as Joe says, at some point we've got to beat these teams. But I just don't see where it's happening with the selections, regardless of formation. I just don't see we've got enough players to play in the positions that we need them to.
George here says, they say promotion winning teams win Messi, but winning Messi in the last 3 home games is surely not a solid foundation. I think we all agree with that. Tim Gorn always asks us lots of questions here. What I wanted to pick out, because someone else has mentioned it as well, anyone else concerned at the lack of team celebration with the winner? Seemed only McGavin went over to Lancaster. I think someone else adds something into that as well. Where are we? Sorry, Tucker. Running Tucker. So was Brett McGavin the only player to celebrate the winning with Jack Lancaster? Certainly wasn't the scenes after Wimbledon last season, after a similar performance and result. Is that all down to no crowd, perhaps?
Hard to know, isn't it? But I think a few players went over, but it was, like you say, it wasn't a massive celebration for a young player scoring a winner in the last, sort of almost what felt like the last kick of the game at the time. But I don't know, it just, everything about yesterday just felt so flat from start to finish. McGuinness got whacked within 10 seconds, and that just set the tone for how flat we were all game, and how there was just no, I don't know, you didn't really hear the players yesterday. It just seemed, I don't know, it did not seem a game that they were playing for the manager yesterday. It just seemed, I don't know, it just seemed such a strange, like someone said, a pre-season friendly earlier, and I don't know how much impact the sort of early goal had on that, but it just was a funny game.
Yep. We'll end with this from our mate Tim down on the south coast, Tim Pashley. Given the general negativity about ITFC, am I sensible for not paying iFollow and getting frustrated? Thoughts about that for Tuesday?
Yep, 100%. Keep your tenner in your pocket, look at the stats, look at the result, and enjoy your week until Tuesday night.
Smug face. Thank you everybody for your questions. Apologies if I didn't have time to read it out. Lots of similar questions, and hopefully we dealt with the key points there, but please keep them coming in. Helps us shape the conversation. Let's do the roundup very quickly before we talk about Hull. Some results here to pick out. Opponents next Saturday, Charlton got a 1-1 draw away at Gillingham. I think they dominated that one. Gillingham maybe got a little bit lucky. Accrington 0, Lincoln 0. They missed a penalty. Gillingham did, or
Charlton did.
Burton 1, Northampton 3, Donny 1, Sunderland 1. Sunderland fans, I think, feeling similar to their season as we are. about ours, and certainly the Twitter, I think yesterday, trending topics include, I think, Parky and Ipswich. So read it, massive teams in League One.
We could be having another bun fight over the available managers like we
Exactly
were with Jack Ross and Paul Hurst.
When Sunderland in for Lambert at the start of last season, maybe they need to.
But this is the thing: if Sunderland or Portsmouth, they're not. I know Portsmouth got a good win yesterday, but Kenny Jackett seems to be sort of on. He's always one that the fans seem to not be happy with. Phil Parkinson the same there. If those two change managers, they're going to be getting someone that we would have wanted.
Talking of Fleetwood 5, Plymouth 1. That's a decent result for Joey Barton's Fleetwood, isn't it? MK Dons 1. Tuesday's opponents Hull City 3. Peterborough, last minute defeat here at home to Blackpool, who have won 5 on the bounce. A late winner for Gary Medine. You mentioned it, Joe. Pompey 4, Crew 1. I had a look at the XG for that game, and or at least the possession, and all, Crew are dominating teams with the ball. They just can't score. This is not a recipe for success.
Today, so it's different, isn't it?
And Pompey's take their chances, don't they? They've got good players, Pompey. Rochdale 0, AFC Wimbledon 1. Swindon 1, Bristol Rovers 0. Some ex-ICFC interest here. Brett Pittman with the winner for Swindon. You can still find him. Paul Tisdale, for the football hipster fans, took charge at Bristol Rovers last week. And Wigan 1, Oxford 2 to finish things off. The league table, Hull setting the pace on 27 points, 2 points clear of Peterborough, having played 1 game less. Ipswich are in third, guys. I don't know what you are complaining about. Third in the league on 25 points, also with a game in hand on Peterborough. Pompey just behind us on 24. Charlton 5th, 23. Lincoln 6th, 23. And Fleetwood now making a bit of a charge up the table. They are 7th. Sunderland's 8th. Don't know what Sunderland fans are moaning about either. Down the bottom, Bristol Rovers, Shrewsbury, Wigan and Burton. Next up then, Hull, who have their results have kind of yo-yoed a few weeks. They had a big defeat to Fleetwood a few weeks ago, but 2 wins on the bounce now for them. But this game is more about us, isn't it, guys? Rather than Hull. You'd expect Hull to turn up and win this one. So what have we got to do to stop that? Have we got to take a leaf out of Shrewsbury's book, perhaps, and stick everyone behind the ball, or are we going to have a nice open game? What's your sense on this one? Who wants to go first, Joe? Craig.
No, I don't. I think. Well, I say if we're going to go in with a central midfield of McGavin, possibly Hughes and Judge. Yeah, as a 3, or Hughes and McGavin as a 2, or Hughes and Judge as a 2, or a left field Dobra coming in. I don't know. I just don't think we're going to be strong enough there, and I don't know. I might be proved wrong. I don't think we'll be going 4-4-2 against. I think we're just going to try and stay as solid as we can by packing that central midfield, and it'll be a 4-5-1 rather than a 4-3-3. Not expecting much out of it, to be fair. Hull score goals, don't they? 2 or 3, I think, most matches, don't they, at the moment? So yeah, let's see. Watch it behind your sofa, I think.
We've had chastening games at home to Hull in midweek games in previous years.
Oh, do you remember? Yes.
That was the one when Mick McCarthy did the team talk on the transfer deadline day. And
was that 3-0 or 3-1? 3-0?
It's 3-0, I think.
Yeah, 3-0. Yeah, that was a bad evening. But neither of you are confident about this one. A Charlton on Saturday isn't much easier, either, is it? I don't think Charlton have lost.
I think they've won 6 in a row up until yesterday.
Yeah, and they drew yesterday. Yeah, so it's not going to be an easy week, is it? Either way, you can follow the goings on at Portman Road on Tuesday night. We've got a live stream, full-time live stream, if you want to vent with Ben and Dave, I think it is, on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So that might be something to look out for. And I think Mikey, is back for the Charlton pod next week. All our details on our Twitter at Blue Monday ITFC, on our Facebook, on our Instagram, on our YouTube. I might do a fleet tomorrow to advertise the pod. Now that's the thing on Twitter. Stupid. Don't I get it? But yeah, that's it, guys. That is the pod. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your input. Appreciate your insight. Who wants the final? I want Joe to have the final word.
Just quickly,
yeah.
The under-18s have their FA Youth Cup second round tie against Chelmsford City tomorrow night.
That's
I think
Monday night, isn't it? Yeah.
Chelmsford are streaming the game at a cost of, I think it's £3.50, but check their Twitter feed at Official Clarets for details. So we should be looking to win that one, obviously against a Conference South team. We should be, the heavy favourites for that. And if we go through, we'll have a home tie in the third round against Category 1 Fulham.
Nice. Yeah, Monday night when people listen to this, I guess. So tonight or whenever.
Sorry, Monday night. Monday the 23rd of November at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Jay. Good luck to the under-18s. Really good stuff. That's it, guys. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Joe. I want to give Joe the final word because I'm pretty certain I know what it's going to be. So, Craig, anything before you disappear?
No. I'll just preempt Joe with a 9-point week coming. So yeah, Joe, go for it.
I don't know why Rich is celebrating because there's 100 things he could have done better in today's pod.
Please listen carefully to any messages and follow the instructions given.